Rose Bennett woke to the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the antiseptic scent of a room she didn't recognize. Her breath was shallow, her skin cold against the crisp hospital sheets. For a long moment, she lay still, listening to the slow beep of a heart monitor somewhere near her ear. She tried to swallow, but her throat burned dry. Then she shifted just an inch and felt the weight of a presence beside her. A shadow, a figure, a man. She turned her head, and her scream tore the quiet apart. "Why are you in my bed?" Her voice cracked, hoarse and panicked. "Who are you?" The man jerked upright, hands raised instinctively, as if surrendering to her fear. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his skin deep brown, his eyes startled but kind. Rose, it's me," he said softly. "It's Malik." She recoiled, dragging the blanket to her chin. Her pulse spiked, the monitor beeping frantically. "Don't say my name. I don't know you." "Get away from me." Nurses rushed in, the curtains swaying as bodies moved between them. A woman with silver hair and calm eyes leaned over Rose. "Miss Bennett, it's okay. You're safe." "Safe?" Rose gasped. "There's a man in here. He shouldn't be here." The moment the words left her mouth, she felt something strange ripple through the air. Shame? Accusation? Something deeper she couldn't place. The man, Malik, slowly lowered his hands, stepping back. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, voice steady despite the pain flickering across his face. "I would never hurt you." Rose stared at him, studying every detail like evidence against him. The worn t-shirt, the calloused hands, the rough stubble along his jaw, a faint smell of engine grease and cedar. Nothing about him fit into the world she knew, her world of boardrooms, glass towers, and curated circles of the elite. Her chest tightened. "I don't know anyone like you," she whispered, barely audible. Malik flinched as if she'd struck him. A doctor pushed gently between them. "Mr. Turner, I'm going to ask you to step outside for a moment." Malik hesitated just long enough for Rose to see something heavy in his eyes, then nodded and left without a word. The door clicked shut behind him. Rose clutched the blanket harder. "What's going on? Why is he in here? Why can't I remember how I got here?" The doctor sat on the edge of the bed, her expression a practiced blend of empathy and authority. "Miss Bennett, you were in a car accident 3 weeks ago. Severe head trauma. We've been monitoring you closely. You just woke up from a medically induced coma." Rose blinked. The words didn't land like trying to grip water with numb hands. "I was in a coma?" "Yes." The doctor took a breath. "And based on your reaction, it appears you're experiencing retrograde amnesia. Certain memories may be missing, particularly those formed in the past few years." "Years?" Rose's stomach twisted. "How many?" The doctor exchanged a quick glance with the nurse. "Approximately 3. Rose felt the world tilt. 3 years of her life gone? "That man," she whispered. "Why did he act like he knew me?" The doctor hesitated. "Rose, he's Malik Turner, your fiancé." Rose froze. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Her fiancé? A stranger? A man she instinctively feared because nothing about him matched the life she believed she lived. A CEO, a Bennett, a woman raised in circles that did not mix with men like him. "That's impossible," she said finally, voice trembling. I wouldn't. This can't be right." "I assure you it is," the doctor said gently. "Your parents confirmed it. You and Mr. Turner have been together for almost 3 years." Rose shook her head hard, the motion sending a sharp pain through her skull. No, I would remember." "I would never—" She stopped herself, biting down on the words before they became something uglier, something she didn't want the room to hear. The doctor placed a hand over Rose's. "Memory is complicated, Miss Bennett. Trauma can disrupt the parts of the brain that store personal connections. Malik has been here every day since the accident. He's been very loyal." Rose swallowed, throat tight. Loyal. The word felt too heavy, too intimate to belong to a stranger. "I need to see my parents," she said. "Please." Minutes later, the door opened. Her mother hurried in first, still elegant, even in worry, followed by her father, whose firm hands trembled when he touched her cheek. "Oh, Rosie," her mother whispered. "We were so scared." Rose clung to them, as if they were the last familiar things in a world that had rearranged itself without her permission. "Is it true?" she asked, voice cracking. "Am I engaged?" Her parents shared a pained look. Finally, her father nodded. "Yes, You and Malik were planning a small ceremony next spring." Rose's breath stuttered. "How? Why? I don't even... He's..." Her mother cupped her face, eyes soft but filled with something unspoken, something Rose suddenly recognized as regret. Love doesn't always follow the rules we think it should. Rose pulled back, overwhelmed. "I don't remember anything. Not him, not us. It feels wrong." Her father took her hand. "Memory or not, Malik cares about you deeply. He saved your life that night." Rose turned toward the window, trying to make sense of a world where she, Rose Bennett, the disciplined, polished CEO, could fall in love with a man whose face she could barely tolerate looking at without flinching. Not because he'd done anything wrong, because she didn't know him, because she didn't know herself, because somewhere inside her, old prejudices whispered lies she couldn't separate from truth. And yet through the glass window of the door she saw him, Malik, sitting alone in the hallway, shoulders slumped, hands clasped, waiting, no accusation, no anger, just quiet, unwavering loyalty. Loyalty to a woman who did not remember him, loyalty to a love she could no longer feel. A strange tightness carved its way through her chest, fear, confusion, and something else she didn't want to name. She whispered, to no one in particular, "Who was I, to love a man like that?" Outside, Malik lifted his head as if he'd felt her gaze, and for one fleeting second, their eyes met. Only one of them remembered their life together, and the other did not even remember her own heart. Rose looked away first, but the moment lingered, soft and unshakable, like the faint echo of a memory waiting to return. Rose didn't sleep that night. The hospital room was too quiet, too dim, too full of shadows shaped like questions she wasn't ready to face. Every time she closed her eyes, the scream she'd let out earlier replayed in her mind, the raw panic in her voice, the way her hands trembled as she pulled the sheet to her chest, and worst of all, the look on Malik's face, that wounded softness, that stunned, almost familiar sorrow. She didn't know him. She kept repeating it to herself, as if repetition could make it true in a way that mattered. But the world around her insisted otherwise. A ring box sat in the drawer beside her bed. A photo of her and Malik, smiling at a Christmas market, had been found in her handbag, her arm looped through his, her cheek pressed to his shoulder. She might not remember him, but the woman in the photo had looked blissfully certain. Rose didn't know what certainty felt like anymore. Morning light crept across the tiles when Nurse Robinson entered with a gentle smile. "Good morning, Miss Bennett." Rose managed a nod. "Did I sleep?" "Not much," the nurse replied knowingly. "Your eyes tell the story." Rose forced a dry laugh. "So, what happens today?" "Physical evaluation, mental assessment, and then visiting hours." Robinson's tone softened. "Malik asked if he could see you." Rose's stomach twisted. "I don't want him near me right now." Robinson studied her, not judgmental but thoughtful. "Fear does strange things, Miss Bennett, but memories don't come back by shutting people out." "He's a stranger," Rose insisted, though even she heard the uncertainty in her voice. "A stranger who waited at your bedside every day for 3 weeks," Robinson answered. "Not many people do that." Rose looked away. The nurse squeezed her hand gently before leaving, and the room fell back into that heavy quiet. Hours later, her doctor arrived, ran tests, asked questions she struggled to answer. Who was the president? Which year was it? What's the last event she clearly remembered? The last memory Rose had was from over 3 years ago. A business conference in Chicago, a promotion, a celebration dinner with her old team. No Malik, no Christmas markets, no trips to Portland or handwritten notes or photos pinned to her refrigerator. No love. When the doctor finished, he said carefully, "You're stable enough for brief visits, but if anyone causes you stress, we'll remove them." Rose nodded. "I don't want to see him, but fate isn't known for listening." That afternoon, while Rose was picking at a tray of tasteless hospital food, a soft knock tapped at her door. Her pulse jumped. "Come in," she said reluctantly. It wasn't Malik. It was her mother, carrying a small bag, face drawn but warm. "Sweetheart," her mother murmured, sitting beside her, smoothing her hair the way she did when Rose was a child. "I brought a few things from your apartment, things that might help." She handed Rose a journal leather, bound, worn along the edges, with a gold monogram, RB. Rose flipped through it slowly, searching for herself on the pages. There were entries about board meetings, notes about product launches, little sketches of sunsets and coffee cups. And then her breath caught. She found a page with handwriting she didn't recognize. A man's handwriting. Just 6 words. "You're stronger than your worst day, M." Her mother watched her carefully. "He wrote that after your father's surgery last year. You were overwhelmed. He kept reminding you to breathe." Rose closed the journal quickly. "Mom, was I ever afraid of him?" Her mother's expression flickered guilt, hesitation, memory. "At first, you didn't know what to make of him. You came from different worlds." Rose swallowed hard. "Mom, did I treat him unfairly?" Her mother didn't lie. "Sometimes. But you changed. You opened. You grew. You learned to love him in a way that made us proud." Rose wasn't sure what hurt more, hearing who she used to be, or realizing she no longer recognized that woman. A sudden voice at the door interrupted them. "Is this a good time?" Malik stood in the doorway, holding a paper cup of coffee in one hand and a bag of pastries in the other. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't assuming. He was waiting like a man prepared for rejection but still hoping for mercy. Rose stiffened. Her mother rose from the bed. "I'll give you two a moment." "No, Mom, wait." But she had already slipped out, closing the door behind her. Rose's pulse surged painfully. Malik didn't approach. He stayed near the door, shoulders squared in a way that made him look both stronger and smaller at the same time. "I asked the nurse to check with you first," he said quietly. "She said it might be okay." Rose cleared her throat. I don't remember you." "I know." His voice was a low ache. "You said that yesterday." She looked at him, really looked. He wasn't dressed like the men she usually met in her corporate world. No suit, no polished shoes, just worn jeans and a soft gray shirt that clung to his arms. He looked like he worked with his hands, like sweat and grit and honest labor were familiar to him. Something inside her recoiled, not out of disgust, but because he represented a life she'd never chosen. Or had she? He lifted the coffee cup slightly. "You used to like vanilla lattes. I didn't know if that changed." She didn't take it. He nodded, accepting the refusal, and set it gently on the small table near the door. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable," he said. "I just wanted to see how you were doing." Rose wrapped her arms around herself. "Why would I ever be with you?" Malik didn't flinch, but the hurt in his eyes was unmistakable. "Because you saw me," he said softly. "In ways I didn't think anyone ever would." Rose felt heat rise to her cheeks, not attraction, but shame. She didn't remember him, yet she'd already hurt him twice in less than 24 hours. "I'm sorry," she whispered, surprising even herself. Malik exhaled, and it sounded almost like relief. "I'm not asking you to remember," he said. "Just give me a chance not to be a stranger." She didn't answer. She couldn't. Her chest was too tight, her thoughts too tangled. Malik stepped backward toward the door. "I'll go," he said gently. "I just needed to know you were okay." He opened the door, hesitated, and looked back one last time. "I miss you, Rose, even if you don't know who I am." Then he was gone. Rose stared at the door long after it closed, an unfamiliar weight pressing against her ribs. She didn't know him. She didn't trust him. But something inside her, some echo of the woman she used to be, felt the tremor of loss, quiet but undeniable. And for the first time since waking up, she whispered into the empty room, "Why does it hurt to lose someone I don't remember?" Morning returned with the pale gray light Seattle was famous for. A soft haze pressed against the hospital windows, as if the sky itself wasn't quite ready to wake. Rose sat up in bed with a stiffness that came from both injury and unease. The events of yesterday echoed through her mind like fragmented sounds. The stranger claiming to be her fiancé, her own harsh words, the quiet hurt she'd seen in his eyes. She wished she could forget all of it, but forgetting seemed to be the one thing her brain could do too well. Nurse Robinson entered with her usual gentle confidence, carrying a tray and a clipboard. "Good morning, Miss Bennett," she said, placing the tray on the rolling table. "How are you feeling?" "Exhausted," Rose answered. "Confused. And I still can't believe any of this is happening." Robinson offered a reassuring smile. "Healing the body is one thing. Healing the heart and mind," she tapped her temple lightly, "that's the long road." Rose sighed. "Everyone keeps saying Malik is important to me, that we were in love. but I don't remember feeling anything about him. I only feel afraid, and guilty for being afraid." Robinson sat on the edge of the bed, not too close, just enough for Rose to feel anchored. "Memory loss doesn't erase your instincts," she said. "What you're feeling is not hatred, it's displacement. You woke up in a life that doesn't make sense. Anyone would feel threatened." "But I shouldn't treat him like a criminal," Rose whispered, looking down at her hands. "Especially if he's innocent." "He's more than innocent," Robinson said gently. "He is loyal, devoted, and the way he has shown up for you every day tells me he loves you with a sincerity you don't often see anymore." Rose felt a tightness in her throat she didn't want to name. "I don't know how to talk to him." "Then don't talk." Robinson's voice softened. "Let him talk. You listen. Maybe your heart will hear what your memory cannot." Rose held her breath for a moment. "And if I can't, then at least you'll know you tried." Later that morning, the doctor returned to check on her. After reviewing her chart and confirming her vitals were steady, he cleared his throat with a distinct seriousness. "Miss Bennett, there's something else we need to discuss." Rose tensed. "What now?" "Your cognitive tests suggest that reintroducing familiar stimuli could help restore memory pathways. That includes people you were emotionally connected to." "You mean him?" Rose said flatly. "Yes, Malik." Rose looked away. The doctor continued, "I'm not asking you to engage in long, emotional conversations, but brief, structured interactions might help. 5 minutes at a time, perhaps. Gradual exposure." Rose blinked. "You want me to spend 5 minutes with him? Every day?" "It may be beneficial," the doctor replied. "If at any point you feel overwhelmed, we stop." The idea made her chest tighten. 5 minutes felt like both too long and not long enough, but something inside her, the same uneasy instinct that had whispered to her last night, when she felt the strange ache of losing someone she didn't remember, pushed her toward the edge of acceptance. "I'll think about it," she murmured. She didn't have long to think. A soft knock sounded. Her breath caught. "Come in," the doctor called. Malik stepped in slowly, almost cautiously, as if approaching a wild animal he didn't want to startle. Today he wore a clean jacket over a simple t-shirt, his posture respectful, his gaze careful. He didn't bring flowers or coffee or pastries. For the first time since she'd seen him, his hands were empty. The doctor nodded to them both. "I'll leave you two to talk." Malik didn't move closer. "I can go if you want," he said quietly. "I don't want to upset you again." Rose hated how his voice sounded gentle but bruised. Even if she couldn't remember loving him, she didn't want to be the reason that tone existed. "I'm not asking you to leave," she said, and the words surprised her more than him. Malik looked up, a flicker of hope passing through his eyes. "Okay. Then, how are you feeling today?" "Uncertain," she admitted. "Confused. And guilty." He blinked. "Guilty?" She nodded. "I don't know you, but I've treated you like someone dangerous, and you haven't done anything wrong." Malik shook his head softly. "You have nothing to be sorry for. You woke up in a nightmare you didn't choose. Anyone would react the same." His calmness disarmed her. For the first time, she allowed herself to really look at him. Not the stranger she feared, but the man. The photos showed the man who had once stood beside her at sunset, arms wrapped around her waist as she laughed. She couldn't remember the moment, but she could see the warmth in his expression in those photos, could see how deeply he cared. Malik cleared his throat, grounding himself. "The doctor mentioned something," he said hesitantly. "About maybe spending 5 minutes together each day, just talking." Rose tensed. So he'd heard. Malik must have seen the hesitation in her eyes because he added, "You don't have to say yes. I'll respect whatever you want." Rose inhaled slowly. 5 minutes isn't that long." "No," Malik said softly, "but it's enough for me." His voice caught slightly, as if revealing more than he meant to. Rose swallowed. She didn't trust her heart. She didn't trust her instincts. But she trusted Nurse Robinson's wisdom, and she trusted the way Malik was giving her space, never pushing, never assuming. "We can try," she said finally. Malik looked stunned for a moment. Then relief softened every line in his face. "Thank you," he whispered. "I know this isn't easy for you." Rose looked down at her hands. "It's not easy for you either." Malik let out a gentle sigh. "Losing you was the hardest thing I've ever lived through. But seeing you wake up, seeing your eyes open again, that was the best moment of my life, even if you didn't know me." A strange warmth settled in her chest. Not love, not memory, but something like possibility. "When do we start?" she asked. Malik's lips curved into the faintest, most fragile smile. "Whenever you're ready." Rose nodded slowly. "Then, sit. 5 minutes starts now." Malik hesitated only long enough to make sure she truly meant it. Then he stepped forward, not too close, not too fast, and sat in the chair near the bed. Rose watched him as the seconds began ticking in her mind. 5 minutes. 5 minutes with a man who remembered every piece of a love she'd forgotten and who was willing to rebuild it one breath at a time. She wasn't ready for more. She wasn't even sure what she hoped to feel. But as Malik spoke gently about the little things, the coffee she used to drink, the trail they used to walk, the way she laughed on cold mornings, Rose realized something she hadn't expected. She wasn't afraid anymore. For the first time since waking up, she felt a flicker of calm, not recognition, not memory, but the faint beginnings of trust. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to begin. The next morning arrived with the quiet dignity of a Seattle dawn, muted light, soft shadows, and a faint coolness that seeped through the hospital window. Rose was awake before the nurses made their rounds. She sat with her knees drawn up slightly, looking at the digital clock on the wall. 5 minutes. She had agreed to 5 minutes with a man she did not remember, and yet the thought of it didn't terrify her the way it had yesterday. It unsettled her, yes, but not with fear. More like stepping into a room where she sensed something familiar but couldn't quite place. When Malik knocked gently and peered inside, she caught herself sitting up straighter. He entered with the same cautious respect as the day before, as though every inch he moved toward her could either heal her or break her further. Today he carried a small paper bag. This time, Rose noticed how large his hands were, how steady, and how he held the bag like it contained something fragile. "Morning," he said softly. I brought something." Rose raised an eyebrow. "Another peace offering?" "Something like that." He placed the bag on the rolling table but didn't push it toward her. Instead, he waited for her to show interest. She hated how considerate that felt, how patient. "What is it?" she asked finally. Malik gently opened the bag, revealing a single strawberry donut with white icing and pink sugar crumbs. Rose stared at it, blinking. She didn't remember loving strawberry donuts, but the scent triggered a tiny flutter inside her chest like déjà vu brushed with warmth. "You used to get one every Friday," Malik said with a faint smile. "From the bakery near your office. It was your guilty pleasure, even though you'd pretend it wasn't." Rose looked at him with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. "Why strawberry?" "Because you said it tasted like childhood," he replied. "And because you liked how the sugar stuck to your fingertips." Something in her heart shifted like a small stone rolling inside her chest, but she didn't touch the donut. She wasn't ready. Malik didn't push. "If you don't want it now, that's okay." He slid the donut aside. "We can just talk." They settled into their 5-minute rhythm, a strange dance of caution and closeness. Malik shared stories about simple things, how he'd taught her to fix a leaky faucet in her kitchen, how she'd made him watch classic black and white films even though he pretended to hate them, how she always fell asleep before the opening credits ended. Rose listened, sometimes with disbelief, sometimes with an unexpected ache. "I don't see myself doing those things," she admitted. "Helping you fix sinks? Watching old movies? I don't even recognize the version of myself you describe." Malik leaned forward slightly, but not enough to intrude on her space. "You changed," he said, "and you allowed yourself to soften, not in a weak way, in a human way." Rose's voice was barely a whisper. "I don't remember being soft." Malik smiled not in amusement, but in tenderness. "You weren't soft with everyone, just with the people who mattered." Their eyes locked for a moment, and Rose felt something clutch inside her chest. Recognition? Longing? Fear? She couldn't tell. A nurse entered briefly to check Rose's vitals, and Malik moved aside to give space. When the nurse left, Malik returned with his hands in his jacket pockets, looking slightly shy. "Can I show you something?" Rose nodded cautiously. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small metal keychain shaped like a wrench, simple, worn, and clearly used. "You gave me this," he said, "on our 2nd anniversary." Rose took it carefully, examining the tiny details. "Why a wrench?" "Because you said I fix things," Malik said with a soft chuckle. "Not just pipes or cabinets, but problems, tension, even your bad days." Rose felt her throat tighten. "And what did you fix for me?" Malik hesitated. "A lot." She looked down at the keychain again. It was warm from his pocket, smooth on the edges. Something stirred in her, a vague sensation of having once held it, once laughed about it. "I'm trying," she whispered. "I really am." Malik nodded. "I know." Their 5 minutes stretched into quiet, gentle breaths. When the time was up, Malik stood. "Thank you for today," he said. "I'll come back tomorrow, only if you want." Rose surprised herself. "You can come." Malik paused, the smallest smile forming. "Okay." He left the room with slow steps, as if reluctant to break the fragile peace they'd built. After he was gone, Rose stared at the donut. Finally, she tore off a small piece, placed it in her mouth, and her eyes widened slightly. Sweet, soft, comforting. A taste that didn't belong to this present version of her but clearly had mattered to the woman she once was. She didn't know whether the memory was hers or borrowed from the stories Malik told, but she felt something warm fill her chest, something dangerously close to longing. Hours later, when Nurse Robinson came in, she noticed the half-eaten donut and smiled knowingly. "Progress," she said gently. Rose didn't argue. She lifted the small wrench keychain still sitting on her lap. "Why does everything he gives me feel so familiar?" Robinson answered with a kind smile. "Because the heart remembers long before the mind does." Rose lay back against the pillows, closing her eyes. She pictured Malik's careful smile, the softness in his voice, the patience in his movements. She didn't love him, not yet. She didn't remember him, not yet. But for the first time since waking up, she realized she wasn't afraid of him anymore. Not at all. Instead, she felt something far more complicated, something warm, delicate, almost electric, moving beneath the surface of her confusion. A feeling whispering that maybe, just maybe, this stranger wasn't a stranger at all. And tomorrow, she would give him another 5 minutes. The weather shifted the next morning, bringing a brighter wash of sunlight across the hospital floor. Rose noticed it immediately. The light didn't feel as sharp or cold as the days before. Maybe it was the sleep she finally managed to get. Maybe it was the half-eaten strawberry donut still sitting in its paper bag. Or maybe it was the way Malik's stories, gentle and patient, had settled somewhere deep inside her, softening the edges of her confusion. She found herself waiting just a little for the knock on the door. She hated that she was waiting, and she hated the flutter in her chest when she heard the soft tap that had become unmistakable. Malik stepped in, holding a small to-go cup with a white plastic lid. "Morning," he said quietly. "I wasn't sure if you wanted something, but I remembered you liked cinnamon lattes in the fall." Rose blinked at the cup. Cinnamon. The scent rose to meet her before she even reached for it. She hesitated. "I don't know if I like it anymore," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. Malik didn't push. "Then we'll find out." This time, she took it without thinking too hard. The warmth of the cup seeped into her hands, soothing, grounding. She lifted it to her lips and took a tentative sip. A spark fired in her chest. Familiar, warm, comforting. She lowered the cup slowly. "It tastes like something." Malik's eyes softened. "Like the mornings you used to work from home. You'd curl your feet under you on the sofa and call your meetings from there. You said cinnamon made you feel grounded." A faint image flickered pink dawn light, her laptop open, a mug between her palms, but it was only a blur, a shadow of a memory. "I wish I could see it clearly," she whispered. "You will," Malik said softly. "Maybe not all at once, but pieces come back in their own time." He sat in the chair across from her, his posture relaxed but attentive. Rose took another sip and looked at him over the rim. "Tell me something else," she said. "Something normal, not about us, just about you." Malik blinked, surprised. "About me?" "Yes," she said. "I want to understand who you are without feeling like I'm expected to remember anything." Malik nodded once, the hint of a smile curving his lips. "Okay, something normal." He rubbed the back of his neck, thinking, "I'm from Atlanta. Grew up in a neighborhood where everybody knew everybody. My mom worked 2 jobs. My dad, well, he did what he could. I learned early how to fix things because broken stuff doesn't fix itself, and we didn't have money to replace anything." His voice carried a note of humility, not bitterness. "I moved to Seattle at 25 after a friend told me there was good work here. I didn't know anybody. didn't have anything. But I figured if I kept my hands busy, I'd keep my heart steady. Rose listened closely, unexpectedly moved. And that worked? Malik chuckled softly. Most days, fixing real things makes sense. They don't lie to you. You see the problem, find the right tools, put the pieces back together. People, he paused, people are harder. Rose absorbed that quietly. She understood that more than he realized. Being a CEO meant solving complex problems that had no screws or bolts to tighten. How did we meet? She asked suddenly. Malik blinked again. You want the long version or the short version? Short, she said, though she sensed she might want the long version later. You locked yourself out of your condo, Malik said simply. I answered a maintenance call. You were standing in the hallway wearing a suit and heels and an expression that looked like you could fire the entire building. Rose's eyes widened. That sounds accurate. He laughed softly. You tried to tip me for unlocking your door. I refused. You insisted. Then you told me I should label my tools better because my wrench looked too old to trust. Heat rose to her cheeks. I said that? You did, Malik said, smiling gently. I liked your honesty, though. You didn't pretend, and you weren't afraid to speak your mind. She felt embarrassment twist with amusement. I sound awful. You sound like someone who built walls to protect herself, Malik said. But later, you learned to let some things in. Rose fiddled with the cup lid. I can't imagine that. I can, Malik said quietly. Because I watched it happen. A silence settled between them, not heavy, but thoughtful. Rose studied his hands, his posture, the warmth in his voice when he spoke about the past. She wondered what it felt like for him to love someone who now looked at him with confusion instead of recognition. Do I owe you an apology? She asked. Malik looked startled. For what? For being different now, she said. For not remembering the version of me you cared about. She exhaled slowly. For making you start from nothing. Malik shook his head gently. Rose, we're not starting from nothing. You're here, alive, talking to me. That's everything. Her chest tightened. She didn't know how to respond to that. Something shifted in the air, an unspoken tenderness she wasn't ready to confront. Tell me another small thing, she said, breaking the moment gently. A piece of our life before. Malik thought for a long moment. Then he said, You loved walking along the waterfront just before sunset. You said it made you feel like life slowed down enough for you to breathe. Another flicker sparked in her mind the sensation of wind lifting her hair, the sound of gulls overhead, the warmth of a hand intertwined with hers. She didn't see his face in the memory, but she felt the comfort. And sometimes, Malik added, you'd stop suddenly and take pictures of little things, flowers growing through cracks in the pavement, boats with chipped paint, stray dogs sleeping on benches. Rose frowned. Why would I do that? Because you said broken things deserve to be remembered too. The statement hit her deep in her chest, like a soft punch of emotion she didn't expect. She looked down quickly, blinking hard. I don't know if I'm still that person, she whispered. Maybe you're not, Malik said gently. People change, so love has to change too. Rose swallowed past the tightness in her throat. You talk about love like it's something simple. It isn't simple, Malik said, but it is patient. The warm cup in her hand suddenly felt heavier. She wondered if the woman she used to be had any idea how lucky she was to be loved like this. What if I never remember? She asked. Malik's posture softened, his voice steady. Then we make new memories. She looked at him then, really looked, and something clicked inside her. Not a memory, not recognition, but a sense of safety she couldn't explain. Their 5 minutes were long over when she finally said, Malik, will you tell me more tomorrow? His smile was small, quiet, full of gratitude and warmth. Yeah, I will. After he left, Rose leaned back against her pillows, her chest still fluttering with something unfamiliar. Not love, not yet. But for the first time, she felt herself reaching not backward into forgotten memories, but forward toward something new. And that was the moment she realized. Healing wasn't about remembering who she used to be. It was about discovering who she was becoming. The days in the hospital began to slip into a quiet rhythm morning light, soft footsteps in the hall, the hum of machines, and the steady, patient presence of Malik. Rose would never admit it aloud, but she had started listening for the sound of his knock the way someone listens for a familiar melody. She didn't love him, She didn't remember him, but she felt safer when he was near, and that was something. This morning, however, his knock didn't come at the usual time. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then an hour. Rose found herself checking the digital clock repeatedly, as if her stare alone could pull him through the door. The absence rattled her more than she expected. Nurse Robinson noticed her restlessness as she adjusted the blankets on the bed. "You waiting on someone?" Rose swallowed. "I know. Not really. I just thought Malik was coming earlier today." Robinson hid her smile well, but not well enough. "He got caught up downstairs. Someone else needed help fixing a jammed elevator panel." Rose blinked. "He's fixing elevators now?" "He fixes everything," Robinson said kindly, "including hearts when he's allowed to." Rose rolled her eyes not harshly, but with a quiet embarrassment she didn't know how to hide. "You all act like he's a saint." "He's not," Robinson said. "He's human, but he's decent, and decency is rare enough to matter." Rose couldn't argue with that. A soft knock finally sounded, and her pulse jumped before she could stop herself. Malik entered with a slightly sheepish smile and a smudge of dust on his sleeve. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "There was a elevator emergency," Rose interrupted, crossing her arms to hide her relief. "I heard," he laughed gently. "Yeah, something like that." "You're late," she repeated, but her voice held no anger. He took the seat beside her bed. "Are you upset?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "I just thought maybe you weren't coming." Malik's expression softened in that quiet, earnest way she was beginning to recognize as uniquely his. "I'll always come, Rose, unless you tell me not to." She looked away quickly. It was too much, too soon. "What did you bring today?" she asked, changing the subject. Malik brightened slightly. "Something from your condo." He pulled a small object from his jacket, a black stress ball shaped like a little bulldog. Rose stared at it. "I own that?" "Owned," he corrected with a playful smirk. "Past tense. You used to squeeze it every time you were stressed." Rose turned it in her hand. The rubber was worn in certain places that felt suspiciously like fingerprints. She squeezed it, hard. Something inside her chest tightened unexpectedly, as though a door had unlocked somewhere deep in the fog of her mind. "That feeling," she whispered, "that pressure in my hand, it's familiar." Malik leaned forward slightly. "Good familiar or bad familiar?" Rose didn't answer immediately. She let the sensation wash through her, the texture, the resistance, the memory without images. "I don't know," she said softly, "but it's something." Malik nodded with quiet pride. "Memories can be physical. The body remembers even when the mind doesn't." Rose put the bulldog on her lap. "Show me more." Malik blinked. "More? More pieces of my life," she said. "Not stories, not explanations, things I can touch." Malik hesitated. "Rose, I don't want to overwhelm you." "You're not," she said. Then, after a pause, "I trust you." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Malik's eyes softened in a way that made her heart stumble. "Okay," he whispered. "Then I'll bring something tomorrow." She nodded, satisfied, until she noticed the hesitation lingering in his expression. "What is it?" "There's something else," Malik said slowly. "Your parents want to meet with you later today. They said it was important." Rose stiffened. "Important how?" "Your father didn't say, just that it was about the accident." The air in the room shifted, growing colder, heavier. Rose's mind raced. Every doctor, every nurse, and every person she'd met spoke about the accident with careful lips as if afraid to let the truth slip. "Do you know what it is?" she asked. Malik swallowed. "I know what they know, but I'm not the one who should tell you." "Why not?" Her voice sharpened. Malik met her eyes steadily. "Because it's your story, your memory, your pain, and it should come from the people who were with you before the crash." Rose clenched her jaw. "So it's bad." Malik didn't answer, which was answer enough. "Just tell me one thing," Rose whispered. "Was the accident my fault?" Malik looked at her with something like heartbreak. "No," he said firmly. "You weren't at fault." Relief washed over her, but it was tangled with confusion and unease. "Then what aren't they telling me?" Malik lowered his gaze. "I think they're waiting until you're stronger." Rose's voice cracked. "But I'm never going to be strong enough if everyone keeps treating me like I'm made of glass." Malik froze, the words hitting him harder than she meant them to. "You're not glass," he said softly. "You're steel. Even now." Something hot and sharp stirred in her chest, not anger, but frustration with the blank void where her past should have been. "I want my life back," she whispered. "I know," Malik murmured, "and I'll help you get there. But this part, this truth, it has to come from them." She looked down at her hands, trembling slightly. Malik stayed silent, not distant, not hovering, but simply present. She found that presence oddly grounding. "Stay," she said quietly. Malik blinked in surprise. "You want me to stay?" "Just for a little longer." He nodded immediately. "Of course." They didn't speak for several minutes. He just sat with her while she clutched the rubber bulldog and tried to calm her anxious breath. After a while, Rose asked, "Was I happy before the accident?" Malik didn't rush his answer. "Most days," he said. "You had your battles at work, with yourself, sometimes with me." He smiled a little. "But yeah, you were happy. You laughed easily. You trusted your heart more than you used to." Rose studied his face. "Were you happy?" Malik held her gaze without wavering. "I was in love." Something inside her chest cracked sharp, painful, alive. "I wish I remembered that," she whispered. "It's okay," he said. "We're not done yet." A knock at the door broke the moment. Her mother peeked inside. "Sweetheart?" "It's time." Rose's pulse quickened. Malik stood, giving her space. "I'll be right outside if you need me." She nodded slowly. As Malik stepped out, Rose felt the room grow colder, heavier, smaller. Her mother took her hand. "There's something you need to know," she said gently. Rose swallowed hard. "About the accident?" Her father stepped in behind her mother. His expression was grim. "About much more than the accident." Rose felt the bulldog slip from her fingers. And for the first time since waking up, the fear wasn't about Malik. It was about the truth waiting to break her life open all over again. Her mother closed the door gently, sealing them inside the quiet hospital room. Rose felt the air tighten around her, as if the walls themselves were listening. Her father stood beside her mother, his expression carved from something older than worry, something closer to shame. Rose's pulse thudded in her ears. "Just tell me," she whispered, her voice trembling despite her attempt to sound steady. "Tell me what you're hiding." Her mother and father exchanged that same look they had traded too many times since she woke up silent, heavy, reluctant. Then her father stepped forward. "Rose," he began, clearing his throat as if preparing to deliver a verdict. "The accident wasn't random. It wasn't just bad luck." Rose stiffened. "What do you mean?" "Someone caused it," her father said, "intentionally." Her breath froze in her lungs. "Are you saying someone tried to?" Her mother grabbed her hand. "Sweetheart, we didn't want to scare you while you were recovering." "Scare me?" Rose yanked her hand back, her voice cracking. "Someone tried to kill me, and you didn't think that was information I should know?" Her mother winced but didn't argue. Her father took a slow breath. "Your car was tampered with, the brakes. Police confirmed it." Rose's mouth went dry. The room felt too small, too bright. "Why?" she whispered. "Who would do that to me?" Her mother hesitated, and that hesitation felt like a knife twisting in Rose's stomach. We have a theory," her mother said. "A suspicion." "About who?" Rose demanded. "Who?" her father exhaled, shoulders sinking under the weight of the truth. "Your company." Rose froze. "My company?" "You were making enemies, sweetheart," her father said. "People who didn't like the changes you were pushing." Her mother added softly. "People who didn't like the man you were planning to marry." The words struck Rose like cold water. Malik. Her chest tightened. "What does he have to do with this?" she asked defensively. "You know what we're talking about," her father said carefully. "Not everyone approved. You were told, more than once, that dating a black man would damage your image as a CEO. Investors questioned it. Board members questioned it." Rose blinked at him, stunned. "In what century?" "This one," her father said bitterly. "Racism doesn't vanish just because people pretend it does." Her mother nodded. "Some people made nasty comments. Some wanted you to distance yourself. You refused." "Of course I refused," Rose whispered, surprised at the conviction in her own voice even without memories. Her father looked at her softly. "They started pushing back harder, leaking rumors, undermining you, blocking contracts. You confronted them. You said you wouldn't let them dictate your personal life. A flicker of something lit in Rose's chest, a tiny spark of fierce pride she didn't expect. So they sabotaged my car, she said, disbelief mixing with horror. Because I refused to break up with Malik. Her mother shook her head. We don't know for sure, but the timing, the threats, the tension, it all lined up too neatly. Rose pressed her fingers to her forehead. Her mind felt like a radio full of static. Why didn't Malik tell me this? She whispered. Her mother exchanged another look with her husband. Because we asked him not to, her father admitted. Rose's head snapped up. You what? You were recovering, her mother said quickly. You were confused, scared Malik showing up, and you not remembering him was already overwhelming. We didn't want to add murder attempts and corporate enemies to the pile. So you just kept him at arm's length? Rose said, her voice trembling. Made him feel like he didn't belong here? Her father sighed. He stayed by your side anyway. A hot wave of guilt washed over her chest, tightening like a vice. She remembered her scream when she first woke up. The suspicion in her tone, the way she'd recoiled from him as if he were a threat. She hadn't needed help distrusting him, her amnesia had done the job for her. Her mother reached for her hand again. Sweetheart, we love you. We were trying to protect you. Protect me from what? Rose asked. The truth, or the man who's been here every single day while I can't remember how to breathe without someone telling me? Neither parent answered. Rose leaned back against the pillows, chest rising and falling too fast, her mind racing through a fog of fragments, her company, the board, threats she apparently refused to bow to, a love she couldn't recall but felt in the way Malik looked at her. I need a moment, she whispered. Her father nodded slowly. We'll step out, but we're here when you're ready. When the door closed behind them, the silence felt heavier than before. Rose stared at the wall, gripping the hospital blanket in her fists. Someone tampered with her car. Someone wanted her gone. Someone who believed her relationship was a liability. Anger flared inside her, not the delicate kind, but the hard-edged, CEO-forged kind. She didn't remember being a fighter, but her body remembered. Her instincts remembered. And as she sat there trembling with rage and confusion, one thought rose above all others. She whispered it into the empty room. Did I stay with him because it was love, or because I was proving a point? A soft knock interrupted her spiral. She didn't need to ask who it was. Come in, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Malik stepped into the room cautiously. He seemed to sense the storm before she spoke. Your parents said you wanted space, he said softly. I can come back later. No, Rose said. Stay. He took the chair beside her bed, waiting, always waiting for her to lead. Rose looked at him, really looked. This man had been mocked by investors, judged by strangers, undervalued by the system, and yet he had shown up every single day for a woman who screamed when she first saw him. I know, she said quietly. Malik frowned. Know what? About the car. Malik closed his eyes briefly, exhaling a painful breath. I wanted to tell you. I did. Then why didn't you? He met her gaze. Because you needed safety more than you needed answers. And because the truth, it changes things. Rose gripped the blanket harder. Did I stay with you to defy them? To prove something? Malik flinched, not visibly, but enough for her to notice. At first, he whispered, maybe, but not later. How do you know? Because you stopped hiding me. His voice thickened with emotion. Because you stopped caring who saw us. Because you introduced me to your board, your staff, your friends, not as some symbol, but as your partner. Rose swallowed hard. And when they pushed back, you pushed harder, he said, pride softening his voice. You fought for us, for real, not for appearances. A long, quiet moment passed between them. Rose felt something shift in her chest again, another crack in the wall her amnesia had built. I want to know everything, she whispered. Everything they tried to hide from me. Malik nodded slowly. Then I'll tell you, but not while you're trapped in a hospital bed. She raised an eyebrow. Where then? Your home, he said softly, where your life is waiting for you. The words sank into her like sunlight after weeks of rain. Her life was waiting. Her truth was waiting. And maybe her heart was too. The discharge papers felt heavier than they should have, as though the stack of documents carried the weight of an entire life she was supposed to step back into. Rose sat at the edge of the hospital bed, while Nurse Robinson went over the final instructions, her voice gentle but steady. Drink plenty of water, rest when your body tells you, and remember, confusion is normal, healing is not a straight line. Rose nodded, though her mind was everywhere except the papers in her lap. Her home, her company, the people who may have wanted her gone, and Malik waiting outside the room with that quiet patience she was starting to find dangerously comforting. Robinson placed her hand lightly on Rose's. "Are you afraid?" she asked. Rose hesitated. "Not of him," she admitted softly. "I'm afraid of walking back into a life that feels like it belongs to someone else." Robinson smiled with that wisdom only older nurses possess. "Then think of today as visiting someone else's house. You're not required to recognize every room. Just walk through it, one breath at a time." Rose managed a faint smile. "Does that ever get easier?" "Only when you stop trying to pretend you remember things you don't." Robinson leaned closer, lowering her voice. "And when you let the right people guide you." Rose's pulse skipped. She didn't ask who Robinson meant. She already knew. Malik appeared at the door just as the nurse left, standing with his hands in his pockets, posture humble but steady. His eyes softened when he saw Rose fully dressed, her hair brushed back, her small overnight bag in her lap. "Ready?" he asked. She inhaled deeply. "As ready as I'll ever be." He didn't rush forward. He didn't offer to take her bag or touch her arm. He waited for her cue, something he did instinctively, something she was beginning to appreciate more than she could express. "You can carry the bag," she said finally, handing it to him. "Just don't hover." "I won't," Malik promised, and kept a respectful distance as they walked out of the room. The elevator ride down was quiet, but not tense. Rose stole small glances at him, noticing things she hadn't before: how tall he stood, how grounded he looked, how people instinctively stepped aside when he walked by, not from fear but from something like respect. When they stepped out into the cool Seattle air, Rose took a slow breath. She had forgotten how the city smelled: rain-soaked pavement, salt from the sound, and distant coffee roasting from street corners. "Your car?" she asked. "Not here," Malik replied. "I took a rideshare. Your parents didn't want you riding in anything I fix until the police finish their report." "Do you fix cars too?" Rose asked, raising an eyebrow. Malik chuckled. "I can, but you don't want me to." The rideshare arrived, a practical, clean SUV, and Malik opened the back seat for her, then sat beside her instead of the passenger seat like she expected. "Why back here?" she asked. "In case you need me," he said simply. She didn't argue. The city blurred outside the window as they drove buildings she didn't recognize, streets she might have walked 1,000 times. Nothing lit up in her memory, nothing stirred, until they turned a corner near the water. A rush of sensation spread through her chest. "Wait," she whispered. Malik leaned slightly forward. "You remember something?" "Not remember," she said slowly. "I feel something, right there." She pointed at the waterfront promenade, where the early sun glinted off the railings. "That view, I think I've stood there before." Malik nodded softly. "Every Sunday." The certainty in his voice struck her deeper than she expected. She turned away from the window, needing distance from the flood of emotion. When they finally pulled into the underground parking of her condo building, Rose felt her breath catch again. She didn't recognize the space, but her body reacted like the echo of a routine long forgotten. The elevator chimed open, and as the doors slid apart on the 5th floor, Rose felt a strange mix of dread and anticipation. Her home, or what used to be her home. Malik stepped aside so she could enter first. The moment she crossed the threshold, Rose felt a cold tremor run through her. The condo was warm, stylish, impeccably organized. Photographs lined the entry table: scenery shots, snapshots of her team at work events, and one picture she couldn't look away from. Her and Malik, standing close, laughing, her head thrown back, his arm around her waist. She wasn't posing or pressed into a polite smile. She looked free, unguarded, happy. She looked like someone she didn't recognize. Malik watched her carefully. "You okay?" Rose's throat tightened. "It's strange," she whispered. "Looking at a version of myself I can't remember being." Malik nodded slowly. "You changed a lot the last few years. You learned to let go." She walked deeper into the living room, stopping at a bookshelf where small trinkets sat in careful arrangements. A dried lavender bundle, a tiny ceramic turtle, a photo strip from a photo booth. She picked up the strip. It was them again, making faces, pushing cheeks together. In the last frame, Malik kissed her forehead. Her stomach fluttered. "We look." She didn't know the word. Malik waited. "Real," she finally said, "not staged or forced." Because it wasn't. Rose set the photo down gently, afraid of shaking something delicate. "Show me," she said suddenly. Malik blinked. "Show you what?" "Show me what our life looked like," she said softly. "Not the big explanations, just the pieces." Malik nodded once, then slowly moved toward the kitchen. He opened a drawer and pulled out a small stack of handwritten notes, sticky notes, scraps of torn paper, napkin doodles. He set them gently on the counter. Rose approached cautiously. The top note read, "Don't forget to eat today. I love you, M." Her breath caught. Another note beneath it, "You worked late last night. Sit down, rest your shoulders, breathe." Another, "If the world gives you hell today, give it hell back." She swallowed hard. "You wrote all of these?" "Some," Malik said. "You wrote the rest." Rose blinked. "Me?" He nodded, handing her one. In her looping handwriting, "Don't fix everything alone." Something cracked in her chest. "I wrote this," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Malik nodded again, his gaze steady and warm. "You used to worry when I worked too much. You said carrying the world alone was a habit neither of us could afford." Rose's eyes stung unexpectedly. She blinked fast, refusing to cry. "This woman, the woman who wrote these notes, I don't know how to get back to her." Malik stepped forward, not close enough to touch, but close enough for her to feel his presence. "You don't have to go back to her," he said. "You're not her anymore." She looked up sharply. "Then what am I supposed to be?" Malik's answer was soft, steady, and sure. "You're supposed to become whoever you choose next." Her breath trembled. He gestured around the condo. "This life isn't a test. You don't have to match who you were. You just have to let yourself feel what's true now." "And what if nothing feels true?" she whispered. Malik met her eyes, and the warmth there was almost unbearable. "Then we build something new." Silence stretched between them, gentle, fragile, full. And for the first time since waking in that hospital bed, Rose felt a spark of something she couldn't name. Not love, not memory. Something deeper, something beginning. "Malik," she whispered, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "Stay a little longer?" He nodded, the faintest smile touching his lips. "I'm not going anywhere." And Rose believed him. For the first time, she believed him. Rose wandered deeper into her condo with Malik following at a respectful distance, giving her enough space to breathe but staying close enough in case she faltered. The air inside her home felt strangely thick, as though the walls held memories. She couldn't reach echoes. She could sense, but not decipher. She moved through each room slowly, almost cautiously, touching surfaces the way someone might touch artifacts in a museum exhibit about a life that wasn't their own. In the living room, a faint indentation in the sofa cushion suggested someone had spent hours sitting in the same spot. In the kitchen, a mug with lipstick residue, hers, presumably weighted upside down in the drying rack. In the hallway, a scuff mark near the wall hinted at hurried mornings or clumsy evenings. Every detail felt familiar yet foreign, recognizable yet distant. Malik stood by quietly, letting her process. "This place, it doesn't feel empty," Rose murmured. "It feels lived in, warm, but I can't feel myself here." Malik nodded. "It'll take time." Rose walked toward the bedroom door, hesitating before touching the knob. Her pulse quickened. The last time she had woken somewhere unfamiliar, Malik had been sitting beside her. She still remembered the scream, the panic, the instinctive recoil. And yet now she was inviting herself into a space she once shared with him. She opened the door slowly. The bedroom was tidy, soft, bathed in muted afternoon light. Neutral tones, textured blankets, 2 nightstands, 2 reading lamps. A faint lingering scent lavender and something warmer made her heart flutter with uninvited familiarity. She inhaled slowly. "I used to sleep here." Malik leaned against the doorframe, cautious. "Every night." Her gaze swept the room, landing on the framed photos on the dresser. There was one she hadn't noticed before. She picked it up. It was the 2 of them on a hiking trail, her wearing a baseball cap backwards. Malik wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. Both of them laughing so hard their faces were scrunched. Rose stared at the image. "We look close," she whispered. "We were," Malik said softly. "Very." The edges of her vision tightened. A heavy knot formed in her throat. She set the frame back down, afraid her shaking hands would drop it. "Why don't I feel it?" she whispered, staring at her trembling fingers. "Why doesn't anything inside me recognize this man, the man I apparently loved enough to share a home with?" Malik took a step into the room, not touching her, but grounding the space with his presence. "Because trauma wipes more than memory," he said gently. "It wipes the emotions tied to them. Your mind is protecting you, even if it feels cruel." Rose pressed a hand against her chest. "It feels like I'm standing in someone else's skin." Malik's eyes softened. "Then don't force yourself to fit into it. Build from what's true now." Rose exhaled shakily. She needed to move, needed distance from the photos, the bed, the ghost of a life she couldn't remember living. She walked out of the bedroom and down the hall, but her foot caught on a corner of the hallway rug. She stumbled. Malik lunged forward instinctively. His hands caught her arms, steadying her. For a split second, their faces were inches apart. Her breath hitched not from fear, but from something else. A spark, a jolt, a tremor of something she didn't understand. She pulled back quickly, heart pounding. "I'm fine," she said too fast. Malik released her immediately, stepping back. "Sorry," he murmured. "Old habits," Rose swallowed, rubbing her arms where his hands had been. "Did you always catch me like that?" Malik smiled faintly. "Every time." She didn't know how to process that. The feeling wasn't recognition, it was resonance, a hum of something familiar beneath the confusion. Before she could speak, her gaze drifted toward the small office space near the window, a space filled with paperwork, whiteboards, and pinned documents. Her desk was covered with folders, sticky notes, and printed emails. Something pulled her toward it, instinct, maybe, or dread. She walked inside, fingertips brushing across the surface. Malik stiffened slightly. "Rose, maybe we should come back to this later," he said quietly. "Why?" she asked, sensing a shift in his tone. "Because this room holds more answers than you might be ready for." That warning only made her want to look more. "I need answers," she said firmly. "I'm tired of guessing who I was." Malik exhaled through his nose, slowly. "Just let me help." She shook her head gently. "I need to do this alone." He nodded reluctantly and stepped aside. Rose opened one of the folders at random and froze. Inside were printed emails from her board members. Cold, detached, political. And between the lines, she saw it clearly. "We urge you to reconsider your relationship for the sake of the company's reputation. Investors have expressed concern over your personal choices. Optics matter at your level, Rose. Your fiancé does not align with the image we need moving forward." Her stomach twisted. Malik looked away, jaw tight. "You saw these?" Rose whispered. "All of them," he said quietly. She flipped to another document, meeting notes. Handwritten. Her handwriting. In bold letters at the top of one page. "I will not break up with the man I love to make racists comfortable." The words hit her like a punch. A strange fire flickered in her chest, faint but fierce. "I wrote this?" she whispered. Malik nodded. "You said you wouldn't let anyone dictate your life." She turned another page, this one containing security reports about suspicious activity around her car the week of the accident. A technician's note circled in red ink. Brake line appeared intentionally damaged. Rose felt the room tilt slightly. She gripped the edge of the desk. "Someone tried to silence me." Malik stepped closer, still not touching her, but near enough for his presence to steady her. "Someone wanted you out of the way," he said, "and you refused to be intimidated." Rose squeezed her eyes shut. "I didn't even know I was brave." Malik's voice softened. "You were the bravest person I'd ever met." Her breath trembled. She didn't feel brave now. She felt cracked open, raw, vulnerable. "I want to know who hurt me," she whispered. Malik met her gaze steady, determined. "Then we'll find out." A beat passed. Then she said quietly, "You said we, not me." "We," Malik repeated. "I'm not letting you walk into this alone." She swallowed. "But I don't know if I can trust you." Malik nodded slowly. "Then let me earn it." The sincerity in his voice made something deep inside her chest shift, a subtle realignment, like the slow, careful click of two gears, finding their connection again after being out of sync. Rose turned back to the documents, her voice wavering but resolute. "I want to see everything, all of it, every threat, every message, every clue." Malik nodded. "I'll bring the file box tomorrow." She looked at him, surprised. "There's more?" "A lot more," he said quietly. "But not tonight. Tonight you rest." Rose suddenly felt the exhaustion crash into her like a wave. The heavy truth, the scattered memories, the home that didn't quite feel like hers. Malik stepped toward the front door. "I'll go. You need sleep." She hesitated, then whispered, "Will you come back in the morning?" Malik's smile was small but full of warmth. "Always." As he stepped out, Rose looked around her condo, her life. The photographs, the notes, the documents, the evidence of war she had been fighting long before the accident. She wasn't the woman she had been, but she felt the beginnings of something she couldn't ignore, a fire inside her, stirring, waking, and she whispered into the silence, "Tomorrow, we start finding the truth." Morning arrived not with peace, but with a restless thrum in Rose's chest. She barely slept. The documents she'd uncovered, the threats, the veiled racism, the sabotage kept replaying in her mind like a broken reel. The truth wasn't simply frightening, it felt personal, violent, like someone had reached into her life, twisted it, and left her in the wreckage without memories to defend herself. When Malik knocked, the sound jolted her upright. She didn't wait for him to enter, she opened the door herself. Malik stood there holding a large plastic file box, the kind used for storing years' worth of documents. His arms flexed slightly around the weight. "Morning," he said, quieter than usual. "You said you wanted everything." Rose stepped aside to let him in. "I meant it." He set the box on the dining table. It landed with a heavy, echoing thud. Rose stared at it, pulse fluttering. "All of that is about me?" "About the last 6 months," Malik corrected gently. "From the first time you pushed back against the board until the accident." Rose pulled out a chair and sat, her fingers trembling slightly on the table. Malik sat across from her, though he waited before opening the box, watching her expression with that same careful patience. "Rose, once we open this, things will get harder. Truth isn't easy to digest when the past is missing." "I'm not fragile," she said quietly. "Not anymore." Malik didn't smile, but something in his eyes acknowledged her determination. "All right, then let's start." He lifted the lid. The smell of old paper and ink filled the air. Rose leaned forward. The box was full: folders, envelopes, USB drives, handwritten notes, printed emails, legal warnings, and even photographs. The mass of it made her breath catch. "Where did all this come from?" she asked. "Every corner of your life," Malik said. "Your home, your office, your car's glove box, even your laptop backups." Rose touched a folder near the top. Malik stopped her hand gently, not with force, but with a quiet seriousness. "Let me show you the order," he said. "There's a timeline." "A timeline?" "Yeah," Malik said, "because your problems didn't start all at once. They built over time." He pulled out the first folder. January. "This was when you first refused to fire the warehouse staff that the board wanted gone." Rose frowned. "Why did they want them fired?" "Someone accused them of theft," Malik said. "There was no proof. They were all black or Latino. You didn't let them take the fall." Rose felt irritation crawl beneath her ribs. "So I told the board no?" "You did more than that," Malik said. "You reinstated them, gave them back pay, and told the board that using suspicion as justification was unethical and discriminatory." Rose blinked. "I said all that?" "Word for word." A warmth, faint but strong, stirred inside her. "Okay," she whispered. "What came next?" Malik pulled out another folder. February. "The first investor pulled out, not because of your performance, but because you were seen at a restaurant with me." Rose's jaw tightened. "That's ridiculous." "It is," Malik said calmly. "But it happened." She clenched her fists. "How did I react?" "You refused to apologize on principle." Rose let out a breath through her nose, sharp, fierce. She didn't remember the woman she had been, but she liked her. Malik reached for another document, but Rose stopped him gently. "Before we keep going, can I ask you something?" Malik nodded. Rose swallowed, feeling the question rise like a stone caught in her throat. "Did I ever regret being with you?" Malik froze. The quiet that followed was long and heavy. Finally, he said, "Not once." She held his gaze. "Then why did people think they could bully me out of it?" Malik's jaw flexed. "Because they underestimated you." The certainty in his voice hit her like a soft blow to the chest. She nodded slowly. "Okay, keep going." He continued through the folders: March, April, May. Each month showed escalating tension: a contract blocked, a project delayed, anonymous messages, pages filled with phrases like, "She's ruining the company," or "She doesn't know her place." Eventually, Malik reached the file marked June. This one he opened more slowly. This is when things got dangerous. Rose's breath hitched. Malik handed her a stack of printed text messages. The first line made her stomach twist: "Drop him or step down." "This was sent to your personal phone," Malik said softly. "Blocked number." Rose swallowed hard. "Did I tell anyone?" "You told me." Rose felt something sharp twist inside her. "And what did I do?" "You filed a complaint." The board ignored it. A chill crawled up her spine. She reached for another document, but Malik placed his hand lightly on it. "That's the report from the night your tires were slashed." Rose stared. Her chest tightened. "Someone slashed my tires?" "Twice," Malik said. "Once at your office, once here. Why didn't you take me somewhere safer?" Malik hesitated. "You refused. You said you wouldn't be chased out of your own life." A tremor went through her. "Fear? Pride? Both? And the brakes?" she whispered. Malik nodded. The mechanic confirmed they'd been tampered with. Rose's stomach dropped. She gripped the table edge, knuckles whitening. "Someone tried to kill me." Malik's voice was low. "Yes." Silence filled the room, thick as smoke. Rose stared at the documents: her life, her choices, her battles, all laid out like evidence in a trial she didn't remember fighting. "And I was still going to work every day?" she whispered. "Still showing up?" "You didn't back down," Malik said softly. "Not once." She looked at him, eyes burning. "Was I brave or stupid?" Malik shook his head. "You were brave, and tired, and angry, and human." Her throat tightened, emotion rising like a wave she couldn't contain. "Why didn't I leave the company?" Malik's answer was instant. "Because you built it, and because walking away would mean letting them win." Her chest ached with something fierce, something she couldn't name. She lifted the next document, one written in her own handwriting. "If I go down, it won't be quietly." A chill ran through her. "I wrote this?" Malik nodded. "You wrote it the night before the accident." Rose froze. "The night before?" Malik's eyes darkened, shadows gathering in them. "That's why I think it wasn't random. Someone knew you weren't backing down anymore." Rose felt the room tilt slightly. She steadied herself with slow breaths. "Who?" she whispered. Malik reached into the box for the final folder. "This is where the clues point," he said. Rose opened the folder. Her blood ran cold. The name printed at the top wasn't a stranger. It was someone she knew, someone she trusted, someone with power, someone with motive, someone on her board. Rose's hands shook as she whispered the name aloud. Her voice cracked. Malik leaned forward. "Now you understand why they wanted you quiet." Rose closed the folder slowly, her pulse pounding. "This isn't over," she whispered, a spark lighting in her chest. "No," Malik said, "it's just beginning." Rose looked at him, really looked, and for the first time she saw not a stranger, not a man she couldn't remember loving, but the one person who had stood beside her through every shadow. And without meaning to, she whispered, "I'm glad you're here." Malik's eyes softened with something deep and quiet. "I'm not going anywhere." And Rose believed him. The silence in the condo stretched longer than the distance between the two of them. Rose hadn't spoken since reading the name inside the final folder. Her hands, still gripping the edges of the file, had turned cold. Malik watched her, carefully ready to intervene if she spiraled, steady enough to let her process. She read the name again, barely whispering it this time. Evelyn Hart. The words felt bitter in her mouth, metallic and wrong. Evelyn Hart, her mentor, her board vice chair, the woman who had once taken her under her wing during her first years in the industry. A woman she admired, trusted, maybe even loved like family. Rose shook her head slowly, her voice a cracked whisper. "No, Evelyn wouldn't do this. She believed in me." Malik exhaled quietly. "She pretended to." Rose stood abruptly, pacing toward the kitchen counter as though distance from the file could make the truth less sharp. Her fingers pressed into the marble until her knuckles paled. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why her? Why now? Why would she?" Malik spoke gently, not pushing, just steady. "Power, control, reputation, maybe fear." Rose glared at him, startled by the heat in her own voice. "She wasn't afraid of me. Malik didn't flinch. She was afraid of what you represented. Rose froze. Which was? Malik met her eyes. A woman who refused to follow her rules. The truth of that landed hard. Rose's breath came unsteady, her mind flashing with half-formed memories, long meetings, heated conversations, subtle tension in Evelyn's eyes when Rose challenged her decisions. It didn't feel like remembering, but like recognizing a pattern her brain already knew. She sank into a chair slowly. "Show me," she whispered. Malik opened the folder. Inside were printed emails, meeting transcripts, and notes Rose had handwritten. It was undeniable. Evelyn to board member, Rose is spiraling. Her relationship is clouding her judgment. Evelyn to legal consultant. We must prepare contingencies if she refuses to comply. Evelyn's handwritten note. If she steps down voluntarily, the transition will be smooth. Otherwise, consequences. Rose stared at the last line. Her voice cracked. Consequences. She meant me. Malik nodded once. She didn't expect you to fight back. She underestimated you. Rose pressed a shaking hand to her forehead. I don't get it. She was the one who pushed me to take the CEO role. She said I was the future of the company. You were, Malik said softly. Just not the future she could control. Rose stood again, unable to sit with the weight of it. She walked toward the window, staring out at the city that still felt like a stranger. I don't remember any of this, she whispered. But my body, my heart, it feels like it does. Malik approached slowly, stopping at a respectful distance behind her. That's because the truth has gravity, he said quietly. And some things, pain, betrayal, they leave marks that memory loss can't erase. Rose wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know who I was before the accident, but I know this much. I'm angry. Good, Malik said softly. She turned sharply, startled. Good? Anger means you're waking up, he explained. It means the fire in you is still there. Her chest tightened. For the first time since waking up in the hospital, she felt something solid inside her. Not confusion, not fear, but conviction. What was I planning to do? She asked. Malik hesitated. The night before the accident, you drafted a resignation letter. Not because you were quitting, but because you were preparing to expose the board. You were going to step down publicly and take everything to the press. Rose blinked. I was going to blow up the entire company? Malik nodded. You said no career was worth selling your soul. A strange, fierce pride pulsed through her. So Evelyn panicked. She panicked, Malik confirmed. And then your brakes failed the next morning. Rose stared at him, everything inside her tightening. Do the police know? Malik shook his head. Without proof, without a witness or physical evidence, it's all circumstantial. The mechanic's report helps, but it's not enough. Then we find more, Rose said. We dig until the truth can't hide. Malik watched her, something like admiration warming his eyes. You sound like you again. Rose paused, startled by how natural the resolve felt in her chest. I don't feel like her, she admitted. But maybe I can become someone who finishes what she started. Malik stepped closer carefully, slowly. You won't do it alone. She looked at him, really looked at him. The man who stayed by her hospital bed, who held back the truth until she was strong enough, who guarded her memories like fragile glass, who carried the weight of a love she couldn't remember and still didn't push her for more. Why are you helping me? She asked softly. Why stay? Why take risks for someone who doesn't even remember your face? Malik didn't look away. Because you're still you, he said simply. Memory or not, confusion or not. You're still the woman I chose. Rose's breath caught. But I didn't choose you, she whispered. Malik nodded slowly. Not yet. Something trembled inside her, fear and hope tangled together. Finally, she whispered, What do I do now? Malik picked up the last sheet in the folder and handed it to her. You meet her. Rose's pulse spiked. Evelyn? Malik nodded. Someone tried to silence you, and the only way forward is to confront the shadow directly. Rose held the paper tightly. A meeting notice. Tomorrow afternoon, at the company headquarters. Her signature beside Evelyn's. Her stomach twisted. I set this up before the accident? Yes, Malik said. You demanded answers. Rose looked out the window again, the city bathed in golden light, indifferent to her chaos. She squared her shoulders, feeling the echo of the woman she used to be rise inside her like a dormant storm returning to life. Then tomorrow, she whispered, I finish what I started. Malik nodded once, conviction steady in his eyes. Tomorrow, he echoed. But as Rose closed the folder, a chill passed over her. Tomorrow was coming, and Evelyn Hart was waiting. The next morning arrived too quickly. Rose barely slept, but this time the lack of sleep didn't leave her. Disoriented, it sharpened her. She dressed deliberately, a tailored charcoal suit that felt unfamiliar on her body but commanded respect, modest heels, hair pulled back into a low, clean knot. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she didn't see the woman from the photographs or the one Malik described. She saw something new, someone who understood exactly what had been stolen from her and who intended to take it back. Malik waited by the front door, his expression unreadable. "You don't have to do this alone," he said quietly. "I know," Rose replied, slipping on her coat, "but the first step is mine." He nodded, accepting that answer, though his posture stayed tense, alert. The drive downtown was quiet. Rose watched the city pass by the streets, the coffee shops, the overcast sky hanging like a muted curtain over everything. She felt strangely calm, not because she wasn't afraid, but because fear no longer outweighed purpose. The company headquarters stood tall and gleaming, all steel and glass. Rose stared up at it, feeling both connected to it and detached from it, like revisiting a childhood home she'd heard stories about, but didn't remember living in. Malik parked but didn't get out. "I'll wait here," he said. "If anything feels wrong, anything at all, call me." Rose nodded once. "I will." She stepped out of the car, the cold Seattle air biting at her cheeks. Every step toward the revolving doors felt like walking toward a version of herself buried somewhere under layers of amnesia. But she didn't turn back. The lobby lights were bright, reflecting off polished floors. A security guard glanced up and froze. "Miss Lawson?" Rose stiffened, startled at hearing her last name spoken by someone who clearly recognized her better than she recognized herself. "Good morning," she said, composing herself. "I'm here to see Miss Hart." The guard cleared his throat, caught between professionalism and shock. "Of course, she's expecting you. Top floor." He activated the elevator access and handed her a visitor badge. She looked at it, her own photo from months ago stared back at her. Confident, certain, unbroken, she clipped the badge onto her jacket and stepped into the elevator. Each floor the elevator passed felt like peeling back layers she had yet to understand. By the time the doors opened onto the 32nd floor, her pulse had settled into a firm, unwavering rhythm. Evelyn Hart's office looked exactly as she remembered from the photos. All glass walls, minimalist furniture, a sweeping view of the city. Evelyn stood by the window, back turned, her silver hair in a sleek twist. She didn't turn around when Rose entered. "You're early," Evelyn said. Her voice carried the same controlled elegance Rose vaguely recognized. Rose shut the door behind her. "I wanted to get straight to the point." Evelyn turned then, slowly. Her gaze swept over Rose with a strange mixture of warmth, caution, and something sharper buried beneath. "You look good," Evelyn said. "Better than I expected after everything." "I'm recovering," Rose replied, her voice even, "and I'm here to talk about the accident." For a fraction of a second, Evelyn's expression flickered something tight, something wary, but she masked it quickly, offering a faint smile. "I see Malik has been filling your head with ideas." Rose's heart thudded. "No," she said calmly. "He showed me documents, emails, reports, things you wrote." Evelyn exhaled through her nose as if annoyed. "Rose, you've been through trauma. Your memories aren't reliable. Malik has always been emotional, dramatic. This is not the time to indulge paranoia." Rose stepped closer. "My brakes were tampered with." Evelyn's calm didn't crack, but it thinned. "There are many explanations for mechanical failure." "Twice?" Rose asked. "And the threatening messages? The investors conveniently pulling out? The pressure to remove Malik from my life?" Evelyn's jaw tensed. "Optics matter, Rose. You know this." Rose squared her shoulders. "I know racism when I see it." Evelyn sighed, irritated. "That's exactly the kind of language that divides teams. You used to be more reasonable." Rose felt heat rise in her chest. "If reasonable means obedient, then no, I wasn't reasonable, and I'm not now." Evelyn moved behind her desk, her heels clicking with controlled precision. "You came here with accusations. Do you have any proof?" "Not yet," Rose said. But I will. Evelyn sat down slowly, folding her hands. You're making a mistake. People care about you. I care about you. I guided your career. I gave you opportunities no one else would have. And in return, Rose said softly, you expected control. Evelyn didn't respond. Rose took another step forward. You tried to push me out, and when I didn't step down voluntarily, something unexpected happened. Evelyn's eyes hardened. You don't know what you're saying. Then help me understand, Rose said. Tell me why everything started falling apart after I refused to fix my image, why the threats appeared, why someone tampered with my brakes the day after I confronted you in a meeting. Evelyn stood abruptly. That was a heated conversation, not a threat. I don't remember the conversation, Rose admitted, but my notes do. Evelyn paused, her expression tightening again. Rose, you're not well. You're vulnerable. Malik has influence over you now. He always wanted more power than he deserved. Rose stared at her. You still don't see him as equal, do you? Evelyn hesitated, and that hesitation was answer enough. Rose's voice softened, but not kindly. It wasn't just the company you were protecting, it was your world, the one where people like me rise only if we play by the rules people like you write. Evelyn bristled. That's an unfair accusation. Is it? Rose stepped closer. Because every document in that file box suggests you wanted me silent. I wanted you safe, Evelyn snapped. You were reckless, emotional, stubborn. I was in love, Rose corrected, and you couldn't stand that the man I loved didn't look like he belonged in your boardroom. Evelyn's face stiffened. Be careful. Careful? Rose laughed softly, bitterly. You want careful? I almost died. Evelyn's mask finally cracked, just a hairline fracture, but enough. She glanced toward the window, her breathing suddenly shallower. Rose saw it, the guilt, the fear, the truth gnawing beneath her ribs, and she realized something then. Evelyn Hart was not a mastermind. She was a coward, a powerful coward, but a coward nonetheless. I don't need you to confess, Rose said quietly. I just needed to see your face when I said it. Evelyn swallowed. You have no proof. Yet, Rose replied. She reached into her pocket and placed a small voice recorder on the desk. Evelyn's breath hitched. Rose, relax, Rose said calmly. It's not on. I'm not here to trap you. I'm here to warn you. Evelyn blinked. Warn me? That if anything happens to me again, you won't just be dealing with my legal team. Rose leaned in. You'll be dealing with me. Evelyn stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. And in that moment, Rose realized something deeper. Even without her memories, she wasn't someone Evelyn could control anymore. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't lost. She wasn't broken. She was becoming herself again, piece by piece, truth by truth. Rose turned toward the door. We're done here. Evelyn's voice shook slightly. What will you do now? Rose paused at the doorway. Take back my life. And Malik? Evelyn asked, her tone sharp. Rose didn't turn around. He's not your concern. He'll ruin you, Evelyn said softly. No, Rose replied, opening the door. He'll protect me, something you never did. She stepped into the hallway. Malik stood there, waiting, tension coiled across his shoulders. Rose walked toward him, breath steady, pulse strong. How did it go? He asked. Rose released a slow, empowered breath. She showed me exactly who she is. Malik searched her face. And who are you? Rose met his eyes, a quiet fire burning in hers. Someone who's done being scared. Malik exhaled, relief and admiration mingling in his gaze. What now? She slid her hand into his, not out of memory, not out of obligation, but out of choice. Now, Rose said, we rebuild, and then we fight back. Malik squeezed her hand gently. Together? Rose nodded. Together. And as they walked out of the glass building into the cold Seattle air, Rose felt something she hadn't since the day she woke up. A future. Not remembered. Not restored, but chosen. Sometimes losing your memory isn't the greatest tragedy, it's a chance to rediscover who you are without the fear, the pressure, or the voices that once held you back. Rose learned that true strength isn't in remembering the past, but in choosing courage in the present. And above all, she discovered that love, loyalty, and justice are not things you recall, they are things you stand for, no matter how many times life knocks you down.